Hiya, it's Momma Soph here. I'm just doing a little video to talk about being a short rider and how I came to get my Honda Rebel CMX 500.
This is Dad and Mag on YouTube.
Stay tuned. Check this out. 3, 2, 1, go!
So I thought we'd start from the beginning, and basically I always wanted a cruiser motorcycle. I always heard that the Honda Shadow or the Suzuki Marauder was quite short, so I had a look at the Honda Shadow VT125, and that was the first bike that I got and that I learnt on. I did my CBT at Black Country Motorcycle Training, and I also did my big bike lessons there as well. When I had my big bike lessons, I was learning on a Honda CB 600. I think it was a Hornet, but either way it was a big bike, and they actually had a special seat that they used for people who were short, and it was effectively a piece of wood with some foam and a bit of leather wrapped around it that they would actually screw onto the chair. That enabled me to be flat-footed when I was actually learning to ride the big bike, and that helped me with my confidence, because when I tried to ride the bike without being flat-footed, although it can be done, you have to do a lot of shuffling, I found the bike too heavy to do that, and on top of the stress of learning to ride, I just really wanted to be flat-footed to help ease and just make me more confident when riding. Whilst I was doing my lessons and I'd got my Honda Shadow that I was just riding daily on or whenever I could, we actually bought a Harley Davidson 1200S. I think that we kind of went with our hearts rather than our mind, buying a bike before I'd actually passed my test, because obviously I don't have the Harley Davidson now. What happened with that is I went to have a go on the bike. We took it outside the front of the house, and I couldn't even get it on and off the side stand. Like, it was really heavy. It was like too heavy to do that on. So I didn't even actually ride it because it was just too big and too intimidating, and I wasn't actually even flat-footed either. So what had happened with that is we'd actually took the seat off, and John took it to somewhere, like a local person. Sorry, I can't remember who it was, but John had took it somewhere to actually have some of the seat removed to enable me to be as flat-footed as I could. What we found was, when I did actually pass my test, was that the bike was just too heavy. Perhaps if the bike had been a little bit lighter, I might have been a bit confident being on my tiptoes, but as it stands, because that bike is very top heavy, and not being flat-footed, it was just far too intimidating, and I didn't want to risk trying to ride a bike that was too big and heavy when I'd just passed my test, because you need to be comfortable, you need to be safe, and I didn't feel like I would be in control of that bike at that particular stage. So I made the heartbreaking decision to sell the bike, because it just wasn't worth keeping, and as much as perhaps I might have been able to persevere and potentially learn to ride that bike on my tiptoes, I don't think that I would have been able to have built my confidence up as much as I have on a bike that I am flat-footed on. So then we were like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Like, what is Soph going to ride? So we actually went to look at a Honda Shadow 750, because the seat height is probably not that much different to the 125. But then when I went to look at the Honda Shadow 750, although it was low off the floor, because the tank was wider and the bike was actually wider, when you're sitting on it, your legs are more open. So I was still not flat-footed, even though it was lower than Harley Davidson, and it was very heavy. So again, I was having the same issue. Oh my God, this is a heavy bike. I'm not even on my I'm not even like I'm not flat-footed. I am on my tiptoes. It just wasn't going to be the right decision, especially when you've just passed and you're learning, because you need to, if you're anything like me, you need to have something that's going to help you grow and help you become a better rider, not something that's going to make you worry about riding or even become a hindrance. Because I personally think that if you get a bike that is too big for you, then that's going to probably cut your bike journey short, because you might end up saying, you know what, I don't want to ride, riding's not for me, when really you probably haven't found the right bike. So because I was determined to have a cruiser style bike, I was looking around to see what else there was. Now, when we went to the motorcycle show after I'd got my Honda, I did sit on a Kawasaki Vulcan. Now, that was probably the nearest to being flat-footed for me. I found, out of all the bikes that I did sit on, a couple of people had recommended me some Triumphs, which I did go and sit on, but again, I had the same issue that I wasn't flat-footed. I was on my tiptoes. And it was just going to be, that was an obstacle that I needed to overcome. I wanted to be flat-footed. So we were looking around. We found that the Honda Shadow 750 was just too wide. The Harley Davidson 1200, I was on my tiptoes. I was thinking, what am I going to do? Because I might have to compromise on the cruiser. I might have to get a different style of bike, but that's okay because, you know, I think for the first couple of years, it's all about being confident, and then you can build up to whatever bike you want once you're more confident riding. But I found out about the Honda Rebel CMX 500, that was a quite good bike for short people. So we found one for sale that was local to us. We went to view it. Dad and Mad came with me. We had a look at it. As soon as I sat on the bike, the only way I could describe it, and I said it on the day, was that it felt like home. It felt like the 125. It felt perfect. I was flat-footed. It wasn't particularly heavy. If it was heavy, me being flat-footed counted that out, because being flat-footed gave me that much more confidence that perhaps maybe I'm taking some of the weight on my feet as opposed to like trying to hold it all up. So it was light, it was comfortable, I was flat-footed, I was sold. I was like, yes, this is perfect, this is going to be the bike for me. So we bought it back. John had to ride it back because obviously I'd never ridden that bike before, and I'd only just passed my test. It was a few miles away out and it was raining. I remember it was really bad. I would never have ridden in the rain, so bless John, he went out and fetched it for me, but I did go and view it and sit on it. Yeah, and it was perfect. So I think I passed my test in September and we bought the bike in October, so we pretty much, Harley was a write-off, we'll get me a new bike, because obviously as soon as you've got that bike you want to be on it, you want to be riding. So we went out, I think it was about October time. We literally just went to the local Honda dealership and back. So I don't know, 10 minutes there, 10 minutes back. But I knew that the bike was the right one for me because we didn't even need to have a test run. I literally just went straight on the bike and rode it, and it was perfect. So I was really, really pleased with that. So I am 5'2", and I've got an inside leg of 27 inches. So if you're 5'1", 5'2", 5'3", this bike is going to be perfect for you. Now, what I would always recommend doing, which is what I didn't do, but what I would recommend doing, is actually purchasing your bike after you've passed your test. Now, the good thing about having the Harley before I'd passed was that it did give me that motivation that I had something ready and waiting for me when I passed my test. But the bad thing about doing it that way is when the bike doesn't suit you and you've got to get rid of it, you're very upset. So I would personally recommend that you detest, then go and have a look at whatever bikes that you want to look at that suit you and sit on them, get a feel for the weight. Different bikes have got different weights. So like with a Harley Davidson, for instance, it's really top heavy. So obviously if you are not flat-footed and you need to lean that bike over a little bit so that when you're stationary at traffic lights and you lean over and you put your foot down, you've got to be able to deal with that weight, and that was why the bike wasn't right for me. Whereas with the Honda Rebel, because I'm flat-footed, when I'm stationary, it doesn't matter because the weight isn't an issue because I'm flat-footed. Now, that's not to say that you've got to be flat-footed. I'm doing this video specifically for people like myself who are short and who want to be flat-footed. If you can get on a bike on your tiptoes, brilliant. If I could have done it, I'd have been riding the Harley. Unfortunately, I was determined that I wanted to be flat-footed. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm going to be flat-footed forever, but for me personally, I just wanted something that I was comfortable with, that I felt safe on, and being flat-footed was just another thing for me not to worry about, because when you are riding and when you have just learnt, you have got to concentrate on the road. I don't want to be worrying so much about the bike. Now, of course, you're going to worry about the bike because it's your baby, But if you're not too concerned with the weight, or if you're flat-footed and you're more comfortable, then it's just going to make your ride more progressive and easier, and you're just going to get better and better. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to cut to some footage where we've gone out for a ride and I've pulled over, and I'm going to take the bike on and off the side stand. You're going to see the bike upright with both my feet flat. So you can see how flat-footed I am at 5'2" with a 27-inch inside leg. Yeah, so you're going to see with the side stand down, holding it up, and then I'll do a bit of paddling. So for me, I'm not a massive fan of manual handling, never have been, never will be. But the beauty of being flat-footed, I feel that I can securely and safely manoeuvre the bike while I'm sitting on it. Now, of course, you've got to be mindful of gravel. Obviously, that's a worry for anybody, even people that have been riding for years. You know, you've got to be careful. You could still slip. Anyone could drop a bike. I'm not saying you've got to be flat-footed to not drop it. It'll just give you that more confidence and enable you to ride comfortably. The reason why I really rate the Honda Rebel CMX 500 is because, as I've said earlier, it's light, I'm flat-footed, it's really comfortable. So it's going to be perfect for somebody who is shorter, who perhaps like me was lacking in confidence and something to progress and build your riding skills on. Now, I still want a Harley Davidson at some point. So I'm hoping that in a few years' time, when I have been riding and I'm very confident, you know, it won't matter that I'm on my tiptoes. A lot of people ride on their tiptoes. But as it stands, as a new rider and someone that's building their confidence, personally for me, I really want to be flat-footed. I really love the Honda Rebel. It's really nice to look at. I'm on a couple of groups. There's like a ladies group and then a group in the UK. So you can still modify it. You can put an exhaust on, you can change the seat, you can change the handlebars, you can change the paint. You can still modify it and make it personalised to suit you if you want to do that. Mine's pretty standard, but I am going to do a few mods to it, but nothing too extreme, because I do think it is a really nice bike as it is. I don't think they're too expensive personally. As a first bike, you know, you're looking at about £4,000 for a 2018 model with not very many miles on it. So for an entry-level bike, someone who's just passed the test, you know, you might be able to get that on finance. I don't think that's too expensive. So what I would recommend personally for you guys that are short and looking at getting a bike is obviously the Honda Rebel CMX 500, but I would also recommend that you go and sit on some bikes and just get a feel for how you feel when you're on the bike, because there's only really you that's going to be able to determine how you feel when you're sitting on the bike. I would like to take this opportunity to say thank you. Thank you for everybody that's been supporting the Dad and Mad channel. We really appreciate it. Thanks to everybody that has been supporting me in my journey to biking. I've took all your advice on board and I do really appreciate it. If anybody's got any more questions in regards to being a short rider, or just any other questions for myself, feel free to message myself or Dad and Mad on Instagram, and we can always do a Q&A or whatever later on down the line. But yeah, just a really big thank you for the support. Really happy with everything, really happy with my journey so far, and really happy to share that with you guys. We've got a few more rides in the pipeline coming up, so you'll get to see me progress, and hopefully you'll get to see me progress more and more on my Honda Rebel that I really love, as you can tell. Yeah, so thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video, and take care. Ta-ra a bit.